Representatives in the days after the assassination of civil rights leader Martin Luther King Jr. I think that had a lot to do with it being pushed forward. The Fair Housing Act stands as a final great legislative achievement of the civil rights era. So has it worked? Not that well. There's a lot of things in place. There's so many different loopholes. There's so many different ways that humans have been able to surpass this and get around it, and it's really sad. Another one of those things that we're really working hard on fixing. But even as recently as 2019, Newsday had an article that they put together about this. Okay, so there was 25 undercover testers trained, 93 real estate agents tested, 240 hours of meetings secretly recorded, 5,763 house listings were all analyzed individually. A 3-year Newsday investigation uncovered widespread evidence of unequal treatment by real estate agents on Long Island. 19% of them were against Asians, 39% against Hispanics, 49% was against Blacks. That was in 2019. Again, fast forward in LA, there was yet another one. The tenants, this one is heartbreaking, but it continues to happen all over our nation in pockets. This one resulted in a $2.5 million settlement in the housing discrimination lawsuit in LA. After a 2-year legal battle, a judge has approved a groundbreaking settlement in a federal lawsuit, Martinez versus Optimus Properties LLC, which alleged widespread housing discrimination in LA's Koreatown neighborhood. The suit asserted that the Los Angeles-based real estate investment firm targeted Spanish-speaking tenants with mental disabilities, and families with children, blanketing them with eviction notices, and leaving their units in despair, and verbally attacking their disabilities and national origin. In a concerted effort, in a concerted effort to remove them from 6 apartment buildings in the rapidly gentrifying neighborhood. The complaint alleged that after the defendants illegally pushed out the tenants that they deemed undesirable, they would renovate the the vacated units in order to rent to younger English-speaking tenants, a process that they called their Koreatown strategy. Absolutely disgusting. So with that came a $2.5 million lawsuit that they obviously lost, thank goodness. And it's just, there's redlining that took place. And Tom, if you could put the screen up. On the screen here, we have a map of actually where redlining was taking place right here in San Diego. I don't know if we can zoom in on that a little bit, but well, while he's zooming in there, it literally was a situation where they would say, if you are Black, we can't sell you a house in this area because we just can't sell them. Or if they were to attempt to sell a property in there, the lenders were behind this as well. And they would look at the map and say, oh, that's a red line area. Black people can't be there. Now they wouldn't verbally tell us that. They just blanket wouldn't put us in certain areas for that reason, which was just horrible. So yes, that's what we're trying to fight. And we really appreciate groups like you guys coming to us and, the partnering, if you will, of us, because we're all fighting the same fight. And with that, I am going to introduce Teresa, who is going to talk a little bit more about some of the discriminations that we have. Oh, you have to unmute.
Thank you, Lydell. I always love getting your stories and your personal connection as a realtor and with your wonderful family history and experience here in Encinitas. It's so nice to meet our local AAUW members. Several of my friends benefited from your beautiful scholarships back decades ago in university. And so that's how I learned about you initially. It was my friends that got your scholarship. So thank you so much. To begin, I wanted to give you a definition of a racist covenant deed. That's what I will be focusing on this portion of our presentation. Particularly to San Diego, these deeds were a contract that imposed a restriction on the buyer of a property that prohibited future sales of property to non-white, non-Caucasians, and or Jewish buyers. I attended a workshop after George Floyd's murder, was called Solidarity with Black Lives. Our guest speaker was Reverend Madison Shockley. I worked with him over the years. Reproductive justice is where he and I connected. He, as a reverend of a church, was out on the streets marching with us. And he posed the question at this time, do you ever wonder why only 0.8% residents of Encinitas are Black? And there was silence. And he said, I can guarantee you that you have racist covenant deeds in your city. And I found it hard to believe in our Yogini, laid-back surf town that could possibly be part of our history. But I trusted his wisdom, and I decided to start my research. And at the same time, I found E4E and joined the housing committee. And it was so wonderful to have this family to go down this path of, housing laws are very complicated. It takes a lot of research to understand this world. This family was ready to take action and also study and become educated, to become effective in housing advocacy, affordable housing advocacy. So I started my journey by contacting our principal planner of our city, Jennifer Gates, and she was very interested in this issue. She had not had time to investigate Encinitas, and she did not know of any of these restricted deeds here, but she had seen them when she was working for the city of San Clemente. And she directed me to, she said, if they're here, Teresa, they're going to be in the older developments that were developed between 20s and 40s. And so she directed me to 3rd Street, where the Kellogg developments were, Cardiff area, and the older area right by City Hall, which is D Street, E Street. So I'd go on my bicycle, I'd take random addresses from these communities and check public records. And it was a very frustrating process because many of these deeds that I came upon were illegible. The ones that I could read, they did not have, which was good. I mean, they did not have these restrictive deeds. That's what I was really hoping to find. But I wasn't getting anywhere, and I still wasn't satisfied. I couldn't get into the library because of the pandemic to do further research. So I met with our Encinitas Historical Society president, Carolyn Pope, and she was unaware of any such deeds. And I was starting to give up, and then I was browsing Facebook July of this year, and a local attorney, Eleanor Musick, had put a post with these types of deeds. She'd been researching school boundary issues in Cardiff and came upon them. And Tom is going to display the two deeds that she found with the language. And I'm just going to read the language for you. It's hard to read because they're kind of faint print. These deeds One was from a commercial trust company to the Cardiff School District in 1930. The other was from San Diego Irrigation District to that same commercial trust company in 1948. Both properties are in coastal Cardiff. The 1948 document states, "Neither the whole or part of said premises shall be sold, conveyed, leased, or rented to any person other than of the white or Caucasian race." And then to add salt to that wound, "Neither the whole or any part of said premises shall be occupied or used by any person other than of the white or Caucasian race, unless such person be in the employ of the resident owner or resident tenant of said premises." Similar language had appeared in the 1930 document as well. These historical documents are evidence that our laid-back Yogini surf town was a reflection of the greater political and social forces that enforced racial discrimination as part of the American way of life. The implications of these documents had many layers for me. Number one, the obstruction from the opportunity to purchase land or home, coupled with the inability to accumulate generational wealth from property ownership. And number two, the segregation of non-white elementary school children, which was very possible with the way that was written in terms of, who was allowed to be on the property. I experienced further disappointment, learning that these properties were actually at the location of our Swami's parking lot and the Self-Realization Fellowship Temple properties. Both sites are iconic treasures of the city of Encinitas. And then additionally disturbed that these were government owned. These were not private property, but our government sanctioned these types of policies. So upon discovering these documents, I emailed our city principal planner, Jennifer Gates, and she graciously, thanked us for the find. And she said she was sending this information along to our housing manager, who is working to conduct a review of racial and ethnic equity issues to help that we provide more opportunity for housing for our BIPOC neighbors. I also emailed this to our mayor, Blake Spear, who sent it along to many other elected officials. For me, seeing these racial covenant deeds increased my resolve to continue to take action to create a city that is diverse and committed to equity. One of E4E Housing Committee's primary actions to address this historical obstruction of our BIPOC neighbors from establishing roots and home in Encinitas is to support the City of Encinitas' current effort to identify an appropriate location for a 100% housing community where people may live and not pay more than 30% of their monthly income on housing. In tandem with advocating for affordable housing production, we will be providing community outreach supports to our BIPOC neighbors during the application process for such units that may become available. And as our Mayor Blake Spear said in her commentary on this issue, being clear-eyed about our own history is an important step in creating a more inclusive and just world, and it will always be a work in progress. And now Tom will give you a preview of our E4E Housing Committee soon-to-go live website. We got so lucky with Tom joining our team, and he's a webmaster. Right when we needed him, he came, and he will help guide you to what you will be able to find in the future on how to become an effective, affordable housing advocate. Thank you.
Thanks, Teresa. I'm actually not. We're almost out of time, so I'm gonna give you a 80,000 foot view of the website.
Tom, take a little more time. We're good.
Oh, okay. Well, let me bring up. Okay, we one of the things that when I'm not a housing expert, and